Hi folks, in this video we will see how this people and organization import script works. So this is our build. You can see there's a folder called 1-PNO. So if you go to the 1-PNO, there are two folders, one for organization setup and one for the people setup. So if you go inside the organization, there's a batch file and there's a input file. So let me explain the input file. So the input file has the creation of subsidiary companies and then creation of a department and creation of collaborative space and creation of the context roles, which we call it as CTX roles for that particular subsidiary and collaborative space combination. So let me explain you. So this is my parent company. Basically, when you install the out of the box system, you get a host company called company name. So we have to rename that as a first step before running this script. So we have to rename it as TAM parent company or whatever the parent company you want to have. That's the root company in the database. So once we do that, I'm going to create three subsidiary companies under this parent company. One is subsidiary 1 and subsidiary 2 and subsidiary 3. And you can add the address of the subsidiary company and this organization ID, unique organization ID for each of these subsidiary companies. So once we add the subsidiary companies, you can also add the departments. So I'm adding a department called TA planning under the subsidiary company 1. So you can create as many departments you want under each of the subsidiary companies. So that's about departments. And this section is used to create collaborative spaces. So I'm creating a collaborative space called PLT1 for plant 1, TAM subsidiary 1, plant 1. And it's going to be a team-based design team collaborative space, and the visibility is private. It's a private collaborative space, which means only people part of this collaborative space can see the data. Who is assigned to this collaborative space can see this data. So that's a private collaborative space. So once we have the collaborative space, so next is creating the context roles, which will be assigned to the users with a combination of company and the collaborative space. So we have the company subsidiary 1 and plant 1. So we mainly create three roles. One is for leader, creator, and viewer. These are the three classification of roles. Classification of users in the system. Okay, this is the input file. So tomorrow, if you want to create another department, you just need to copy this and then put it here. Let's say I'm creating a department called TA scheduling. That's it. So the system creates a department, and you can also create a collaborative space by just copying this, and then I put it as plant 2 for the same company. Okay, so it creates a collaborative space. So once we have the collaborative space, we may have to create the context roles for that collaborative space so that it can be assigned to the user. So basically I change this to plant 2. Okay, so that's all about this input script for organization. Let's see how do we run this organization setup. So there is a batch file. This batch file takes basically two arguments. One as the password of the admin platform and then the platform installation path. Okay, let's see what happens when we run this batch file. There are two ways to run it. One is just double clicking it. So when you double click it, it'll ask for the password of the admin platform. for us. So this is the password, we set it in our database, and then it asks for the path of the 3D space installation. If you have the default, this is the default which is set in the code. If your path is different, then you can type it here. Basically, you can type it here like this. So once we do this, the system takes the input file and runs does the import. Okay, so when it runs, it creates the output file here. You can go and check the output. So basically, it says that this is updated, this is updated, this is updated, and this is updated. This one is a new one which is created, and then plant one updated, plant two is created, which is created newly, and all these three are existing um, context roles which are updated, and these are the three new roles created. Okay, so that's about the organization creation script. Next, let's see how do we create actually people. This another way of running this script is you can go to this folder and go to a command prompt, and then you can just call that script with parameters. So that's another easy way of running it. So you just put the first parameter as your password. The second parameter is the path of the 3D space installation, 3D space platform installation up to this path, and then press enter. So it's much easier this way than supplying the parameters one by one. Okay, so you can go and check it whether the organization setup is done. So we have another log file here with a timestamp. There's a new one. So this time everything will say updated. Nothing is created because it's the second time we ran it just now. Okay. So likewise, there's another folder you might notice here called people. So this has two different input files, one for the 3D space and one for the passport, basically to create the user in both these databases. So this is the input file for the 3D space. So this is to create a single person, this whole block of code, what we have. Oh, this is input syntax. So this is the person name and this is the company name where he belongs to, and address, country, and all those email, all those things you can fill. First name, last name, and then here comes the department, which department you are assigning him, and then the context role. This is the context role we are assigning, and then this is another important section, assigning the licenses. So in this one block, we can do so many things: creating the person, adding to the company, adding to the department, assigning context role, and also the licenses. So I'm creating another person called let's say TA engineer. So TA engineer. So he also belongs to the same company, and TA engineer. TA engineer is the last name. And okay, this is fine. And then he is going to be the same planning, and he is also going to be a leader, or make him as we can make him as creator. So let's see, well, let us make him as creator. So he's a VPLM creator, and he's not going to have DPM. He will have only IFW and CSV, basically the project member. Okay, so this is the way to create a new user and set up the licenses and assign the context roles to him. And let's see how to import this user. So there's a batch file like people setup dot bat, and if you go here, this takes two parameters. One is the password, other one is the installation path. It's the same thing. So let's see how to run this. Basically, I'll just change my directory to people, and then go here, uh, this batch file. Basically, two parameters I need to pass. One is the password of the admin platform, other one is the platform installation path. So the platform installation path is here. So once we pass these two parameters, the system takes the input file and update the existing users if the user is already created, or create the new user if the user is not there in the database. So this script usually takes a little bit of time when the users grow in the database. So let's see what happened here. So it also created a log file. I'll show you. So this created a log file. So when you open the log file, it says um, all these are for the first person TA planner. The second person TA engineer is created. The first person it says updated, and only the second person it says created and all the stuff. So now, will you be able to log in with this user because he's created in the database? No, he need to be created in passport also. So for that we have a separate script, passport input script. So here it's a very simple script. Just put that person name and then which company he belongs to, and first name, last name, and the password. So I'm going to add this new user here, which I just created using the 3D space script. So I go here and mention it as TA engineer. This will be engineer, and then another email ID, and password is password. Passport input file, we have something called passport setup batch file. So let me open the batch file. So this file contains um, this file expects two input parameters. One is the domain name, the other one is the platform installation path, and it takes this input file which we just discussed. Okay, so let's see how to run this. So I just go and open a new command prompt and go to this location and call this, sorry, I'll just copy this path of the batch file and then put it here. There are multiple ways to run this. One is just call this batch file. So it's going to ask me the domain name. So the domain name is here. This is the domain name, which will vary from installation to installation. So we are taking this as a parameter. And then the platform install path, if you just see this is your default path, you can just press enter. So these two users are now created. Okay, if it already exists, it will just update. So this says it already exists because I just ran it already. So this other way of running it is you can just double click, or you can pass this input parameters directly here, like tam.3dx.com, and then the URL, the installation path as a parameter. So this is another way of running it. You can also double click and run it. So let's see, once we create this user TA engineer, we are able to log in or not. So I'm going to log in as TA underscore engineer. Password is password. Cool. So we are able to log in, and he's assigned with this company, and then collaborative space, and then his role is an author. Okay, so hope you understood how this piano scripts work. So to summarize, so there is a folder for organization, an input file and a batch file. There's a folder called people. There's an input file and batch file for 3D space. There's an input file and batch file for 3D passport. Okay, thank you folks. See you in the next video. Bye bye.